I saw a few comments after my last post about ending my engagement where some women were asking for advice so that they're able to avoid a counterfeit. Now, what I will say is that we need to be led by the Spirit of God and not over spiritualized circumstances. I'm convinced that when something isn't right, that we will know. However, one of the things I've observed is far too often when we're devout Christians, we will spiritualize everything and convince ourselves it's from God when that's not the case. One of the first things that I would say is love bombing. Now, love bombing is often where a person will do all this really nice stuff for you, whether that's buying you things, taking you out, saying that they love you very early on in the relationship. In my personal experience, I did not believe that I was being love bombed. However, within a number of days of me and Jason meeting, we were already talking about marriage. Now, it's interesting because I've read and heard stories of men and women, Christian and non-Christian, who will maybe go on a date, potentially a blind date, and meet someone and go home that night and say, this is the person I'm going to marry. Or even during the date, actually tell the other person, I'm going to marry you. So, of course, we have to tread with caution when it comes to making the assumption that we're being love bombed. In my case, when I look at my current situation and the fact that I'm no longer in a relationship, I would say categorically that love bombing took place. I had an experience with a previous guy I was friends with. In a few days, he was telling me that he really liked me. He was saying all the right things and implied that he could marry me. Now, with that guy, I would say he never led me on. He never categorically said, I will marry you, but he alluded to the fact that that is definitely a possibility. But in just a few days, it's too quick because you don't know me, you don't know my flaws. And not even that, you haven't truly got to know my life's goal and visions and whether you fit into the plan that God has for my life. So love bombing is the first thing. Gaslighting is another huge red flag. Now, gaslighting comes in different ways. And I was sharing with somebody recently, and she said that gaslighting is very much messing with a person's mind. And I said, I completely agree with you. So, for example, if you are with another person and you ask them a question and they don't respond, and you ask them again, and then they say to you, I said yes, I replied, when you know that they didn't, that is an example of gaslighting. And that's something that I experienced personally. I would speak, not get a response. I would challenge and say, you haven't replied. And then I would be told, I replied, you didn't hear me. Now, if I'm sitting in a confined space with you, a car, a plane, we're both sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm facing you, and there's nothing to distract me, there isn't a lot of noise, I'm looking your direction, I'm not deaf, dumb, or blind, so I am fully going to be aware. If a response came out of your mouth, I'd see your mouth move, and I would hear you speak. And that's something that I went through repeatedly, and it drove me crazy because I found it very disrespectful. If someone speaks to you and you don't respond, that's your free will. But to then lie to them and say you responded, that's where the gaslighting comes in. It's interesting, but when I posted on Facebook, in short, just sharing my experience in my relationship, not in detail because of course it's anonymous, and not being able to put down everything because I want people to read my post. I had 1,000 women from all around the world commenting, run, red flag, he's a narcissist, sharing their own personal stories. Now, the fact of the matter is, if you're in an unhealthy relationship, you're going to do things to protect yourself. And one thing I can say about covert narcissists, because that was my particular experience, is that they have a sense of grandiosity. They think very highly of themselves. Now, that doesn't mean to say that they're arrogant per se, but they just think that they're the best thing since sliced bread. They're the best employee, best friend. They may say things like, no man will ever treat you the way that I treat you. I treat you so good. You won't be able to find anybody like me. all things that I was told. Another thing about covert narcissists is that they are very, very, very unsusceptible to any kind of criticism. Anytime that I would criticize, it would be flipped around and somehow I was to blame. They do not like to apologize. They do not like to admit that they're wrong. They are always the victim. They do blame shifting, where it's always someone else's fault. They take no accountability, no responsibility, and you will feel as though you're walking on eggshells. For me, somebody who is vocal and likes to communicate, that is difficult. They also lack empathy, the inability to be able to understand how you feel. And that's one of the things that I found in my own relationship, that an abusive person or a covert narcissist may become a chameleon in your life. When you first meet them, they are an energy vampire. They will emulate you. They will say that they enjoy the things that you enjoy. They will become exactly what you're looking for. Now, I don't mean that they're going to necessarily say what you want to hear. What I do mean, however, is that when you meet this person, they're going to enjoy the things that you enjoy. And if you share your dreams and visions, they're going to make sure that what they say lines up with you. Now, I feel that I was deceived because I believed I was marrying a Christian. I believed I was marrying somebody who loved board games, somebody who wanted to have children, and those were lies. And wanting to have children, if a person lies to you and says that's the case, that's a huge issue, because if they decide when you've married them they don't want to have kids, then what happens next? And then board games. I absolutely love board games. When we first met, we played games until 4 o'clock every morning. However, I noticed when we went to Turkey for Thanksgiving, we didn't play games. Went to India for Christmas, didn't play games. So I observed, because for me, a person can say whatever they like, but I want to see your actions. The Bible says, by their fruit you will know them. And for me, a person can say whatever they like, but I'm definitely going to be looking at their behavior. Now, I had no idea that he did not want to have children. I was deceived about that. And so I thank God that I didn't walk into a relationship where I would not have been fulfilled. If you really love going to the theater, you love cooking, you love dancing, whatever it is, and that person claims to enjoy those things, when you get married, you'll be doing it on your own. Even the fact that I was told that Jason liked cooking. He doesn't cook. He eats takeout every day. So again, all of this was deception. Now, for me, what have I learned from my experience? I believe, like my mother has always told me, it's really important to meet the guy's family. And I met his family, but unfortunately, they didn't tell me everything. They told me bits and pieces, but it was only after the fact that I got the full truth. So for me, going forward, I will meet a guy's family and I'll ask them, so what does he feel about having children? What are his favorite hobbies? What does he love to do? What's his favorite activities when he's home on the weekend? Because for me, I want to have the whole truth. I don't want to get snippets. And then when the relationship ends, then I suddenly find out he didn't want children. He doesn't like games. He curses all the time. I was seeing a very different side. And for me to fully know who I'm in a relationship with, I want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I strongly advocate, take your time, get to know a person. My pre-marriage counselor said that we need to wait at least 6 months before starting pre-marriage counseling. I believe you need to meet the family. You need to ask the right questions. And I believe you really need to be in pre-marriage counseling. Churches typically do it for a few weeks, 1 session per week. That is not enough. I am strongly convinced you need at least a year's pre-marriage counseling, and you need to be honest and open, because if you want to make the right decision, the second most important decision of your life, which is getting married after baptism, then you need as much wise counsel as possible. But anyway, I'll share with you guys in another video some more of my experience so that I can help to advise and guide and, by the grace of God, enable you to make a right and healthy decision so you don't end up like me in a broken engagement. God bless and bye.